Will Trump shut down the government over border wall funding?
Each week, The Score from Bearing Drift brings listeners news, reviews, and interviews.
To learn more, visit bearingdrift.com.
President Trump threatened to shut down the federal government if the next budget deal does not include funding for a border wall. Here he is in the Oval Office with Democratic leaders Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi.
You know what I'll say? Yes. If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay,
absolutely.
fair enough.
And
We
I am
disagree.
proud, and I'll
We
tell you
disagree.
what, I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck, because the people of this country don't want criminals and people that have lots of problems and drugs pouring into our country. So I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it.
All right, Michael Shindler with Young Voices. Will these threats make a difference in votes?
Well, a difference in votes when?
With the upcoming, well, in votes to pass the wall before a government shutdown.
So, I'd hope so. I certainly wouldn't want to see the government shut down. I do think that both there are plenty of Democrats and plenty of Republicans who want to see the government not shut down. It seems like a decent thing. It's like sort of like a bare minimum thing as keep on doing. And investing a bit in a wall seems to me to be a reasonable thing. The caravan is proof that there are folks who want to cross our southern border and get into the United States. A wall is an effective way of stopping them from doing that and saving everyone lots of tears and heartbreak and costs. So yeah, I think it will make a difference in votes. I hope it makes a big enough difference to avoid a government shutdown. But that's the hope.
There's talk that the Democrats are willing to go some way on this wall thing, but they want to bargain. And it appears, at least the last I heard, that the DACA issue could be a part of this.
Oh, the DACA issue?
Yeah, right. In other words, okay, Mr. Trump, we'll give you some bread for your wall, but let's resolve the DACA issue. That's, those young people, many of whom are already in college. The United States is really the only country they know, even though their parents are from other countries, et cetera, et cetera. It's time to finally resolve this DACA issue. But Donald Trump wants, what, $5 billion, right? And it sounds like the Democrats don't want to give up $5 billion. I've heard maybe $2 billion, but the Democrats obviously aren't going to do this unless they can cash in some bargaining chip, something that they can get out of this. And it sounds like DACA may be at the core of this in terms of the Democrats, Chuck and Nancy, as Donald Trump likes to say. It's like a mantra with him. There's always Chuck and Nancy. There's never Nancy and Chuck. So, but the DACA issue could be a major part of the situation.
James Rosen, what's your opinion?
Well, one of the strange things about the bizarre White House meeting between Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and President Trump was that when he took out his notes and he was reading off of his notes, he actually acknowledged that there are sections of the border that do not have a wall that nonetheless are effectively keeping Mexicans and other folks out of the country because of other surveillance measures, which was the argument of his opponents, both Republican opponents and Secretary Clinton during the presidential race, which is why, as to why we don't need to build an entire wall across the entire border. So he was arguing kind of both sides of the issue. I found it to be very strange. So you can see where he's already creating cover for himself, in my mind, in case he has to back down, in case he doesn't get all the money, in case he has to back down, in case an entire wall doesn't get built, which nobody believes is going to happen.
Well, and I've heard them talk about security, just some kind of security. He kind of threw that out there partway through, and I've heard talk of not building a wall, but investing in other forms of security. Do you think he would be willing to settle for that as opposed to an actual physical wall?
I think that, well, we already do that in lots of sections of the border. We have like fences and just patrols that patrol areas where folks don't usually come by because the physical conditions on the other side are just so hard that nobody bothers to cross. We usually have walls up where folks are most likely to cross. The thing is, like, now that there are walls up, people are going to the second most easiest spot to cross over. So I do think that he will settle in some spaces for less than a wall, but certainly there are lots of spaces across the border that do merit a wall, and I think that he won't settle there.
And he also may use, because I've heard some other Republicans say this, that Donald Trump sometimes, it's always sometimes or maybe part of the time with him, because you know how your boy is. He can change like the weather. But he may settle not a wall literally, but some other form, and he might use that for cover also. Because Rosen was alluding to the term cover before.
Yeah, just like President Obama did it.
All right.
They still say that he won.
That way he can still say, yeah, hey, I won.
All right, great. All right, well, let's take a question from our next viewer, Matthew Wise. Thanks for writing in. How would a border wall prevent drug cartels from smuggling drugs into the U.S.? This is a good question. Who would like to take that?
I'll take it.
Okay.
So one of the ways that cartels smuggle drugs into the U.S., aside from shipping drugs, is by just taking it across the border physically on foot. It's not the preferred method for most sorts of drugs, especially like fentanyl, which is very, very small and you could hide in lots of things. But for bulkier sorts of drugs, it's the easiest way to get something across because those are the sorts of drugs that Border Patrol will usually pick up. So if you're a cartel and you have a wall in the way, it makes your job a lot harder.
To get the drugs across?
Yeah.
Okay, but what about other forms of transportation? Sea, air,
Tunnels.
tunnels,
They're masters
underground?
of tunnels. The
Underground?
cartels build
they're
incredibly
quite-
intricate tunnels.
They're quite good, but those are more expensive than really walking. So they make the job of the cartels even harder, like a good wall.
So in other words, you're all for the wall, right?
In certain parts, yeah. It's like assuming it's cheaply funded, and I could do it well, yeah.
All right, that's all for this week. I'm Heather Godwin, and thanks for watching The Square Circle. We'll see you next week.